Here we are. Here we are. Hello, Monifa.
Hello, Susie. Welcome everybody to our Verve Vision. Ooh, what episode? 9. We're on episode 9.
Number 9. We're in the ninth
Welcome.
month of our grand experiment, Verve and Vision, Sovereign Spirits Mastering Midlife. It's so good to be back with you.
Yeah, yes. We brought some yummy stuff to you. So our wonderful astrology, and then what do we do about that? Ideas, and then how is it connecting into our book? I was thinking about how astrology can be tossed aside a lot because it's wisdom. It's just general wisdom, and it's itself that reminded me, sometimes magic comes in those simplicities as well, and it reminds you to honor both the the fun of finding those connections, inspirations, and synchronicities.
Yes, I think the synchronicities, right? That
Did
and I
you
know you're
hear
in a
that?
form of alchemy. I think we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Am I coming through for you now? We got a little delay, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a slight delay.
All right. Come on, technology. We're out of retrograde. We're full speed ahead here. Although we are talking about magic, and maybe technology feels a little bit intimidated.
Well, it should. It should feel intimidated. But yeah, and so yes, I think it's a beautiful connection this month as well. And yeah, there's just some things that are undeniable that are just showing up in the energy. And what is a lot of the takeaways are the things that we wanted to make sure y'all got out of Big Magic, even if you don't quite sit down to read the whole thing. So yay, Susie. How have you been thinking about this month?
I have actually it's been a whirlwind, and I don't think that's the first time as we've been here together on the show to talk about that has been something I've said. I think it's been a trend and kind of a growing energy. Things feel faster, more hectic. It feels maybe a little more difficult to keep it simple and stay true to what we know is our guiding thing, which might be the inspiration for next month's book. We'll be sharing that with you before we go today. Um, and so that really has been kind of to the front of my mind. And it's made it even more um, kind of poignant, maybe is the word that I'm looking for, as I'm reviewing Big Magic. I'm listening to it this time. I read it before, and now hearing it in Liz Gilbert's own voice. I mean, not only is she a wonderful storyteller on the page, but the way that she relates the stories that she has kept inside the book. It really has inspired me to kind of move back into the driver's seat. And I don't think that I really made the conscious decision of releasing control or relinquishing control, but it's felt really difficult this year to feel like I've got a hold of the wheel. And so it's really nice, gentle reminders, some nice, tough love, straight talk from Liz, helping me see, like, if it's going to be, it's up to me, that kind of thing. I'll borrow that sorry old line. And it's really nice to kind of get a fresh perspective on things. But I know right now we're in the midst of eclipse season. We had one with the prior full moon, and now with the new moon coming up next week. I mean, my understanding, although still limited, is that eclipse seasons are kind of known for some shakeups. So I feel like that is influencing and informing things for me too. How about for you?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was still getting that lag in there. So yeah, the Pisces full moon lunar eclipse, right, was like intense, I think, for most people. I mean, full moons are always about what are we letting go of, but I think it this time it was like we don't like how do we let go of something we don't know we're like letting go of a little bit of that feeling of um like we usually have harsher lines on what doesn't want to show up anymore. And I feel like this is really, and it really has been a theme this year of just you need to go inside and trust what you know of yourself and what you know is inspiring and resonant for you. And so, even in this letting go of this Pisces full moon, like it's that conversation of you know, it's not about what things you can point at to say that it's a good decision. It's about what is truly aligned for you. And and yeah, and like in this intense way of um I don't know. It feels like you have to buckle down again to something that you don't even know what it is yet. And so yeah, that's kind of that that's how it's felt for me anyways too. So yeah, and even in my clients, like the disruption is real. Even though a lot of people are doing really well at kind of plowing through and getting a lot of work done anyways, that it's still kind of showing up in really sporadic ways you can't predict. To have to again find the seat of where you're coming from to either heal. People are getting sick, we're losing family and friends. We're our projects are getting rerouted in ways that we thought we thought was something else, and now it looks like something different. And so it's like, well, I committed to the project as it looked, and we're just saying, no, actually, you just committed, right? And now you get to live the experience of that commitment. Like that's, I didn't promise anything. I just told you to commit, right? Like you're just like, wait a minute.
Kind of a season of some tough love
So
and some real awakenings, right?
it is. It's been, I mean, this whole year I think has been a little tough lovey. But yeah, I mean, but really trying to get us back to just having a greater sense of self and letting that be good and good enough. And so yeah, and so it's been however that lesson looks like. And I know this like what's so frustrating about a lot of lessons is that they feel like you've already learned them and you thought you completed them, and why am I having this one again? Um and I think that's like I don't know if they just double every year or that's just the way it works. You know, if you don't feel it, then how do you know it's happening? But um but yeah, it's been that sense of like doubling down on what's been the message. Because really, I mean, again, I always bring this up, really since about I would say 2017. You know, I do think this is that 7 year cycle where really 2017 was the year that was just like, who are you? What are you doing here? What is your mission? And how are you nurturing your life and other people's lives? That North Node in Cancer, I think, was around then. And so we've been getting this message for a minute now. And it's kind of the life journey of this is what we're doing. This is what we're about, is how like understanding why we're here and then being more of that. Um, so yeah, so I feel like it's just getting more potent because we no longer expect those needs to be met by our externals. So we no longer expect like finances to be predictable, governments to be predictable, schooling to be predictable. Like nothing is as it's always been, and it won't be. Right? This Aquarian age is like not playing. Um, And so yeah, and so it's like, okay, I know it was a nice idea before. It was a nice to have to know your purpose before. And now it's like, how are you making decisions without that understanding? I don't know how people I don't know. I don't know how people are doing it, honestly. Personally. I'm like, that feels tough to me.
Well, I think, we tend to get so attached to the picture that we've painted for ourselves, right? Especially way back when we had a different vision. And I mean, I can certainly think back of how drastically I changed course in 2017. I think I was a full time student actually in 2017,
Wow.
culminating what I had already begun in studying and this whole pivot into holistic health and inspiring people to take more care of themselves as much as I learned to do it for myself. And that continues to be a journey. And,
Right.
that tricky part of manifesting where we're invited to get crystal clear on a vision, to know what we're dreaming for, to shoot our rockets of desire, as Abraham Hicks likes to say, and then releasing attachment. And maybe that's kind of a big lesson in where we are right now. Is that how you're looking at this current energy?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like right now, same. 2017 was when I started researching and comparing and looking at a lot of different kinds of astrology. And it's become this understanding of like how I decipher wisdom is archetypical storytelling, cyclical patterns. It's been the bedrock of what I consider to be what's needed in order to be effective and potent in the moment, is by understanding the pattern and to recognize the personality or the energy that wants to play out. So this is really that culmination for me. And that is the new moon, like the new moon solar eclipse in Libra is this idea of wisdom. And Karen Curry Parker talks about how it's what we've put the work into already, right? So
Mm.
we tend to not count all those amazing things that we've been doing. And even the ones that feel like they have been separate up until now, like really look back and see how they are connected and what it's brought to you that you now know about yourself that you did not know before, because there's more than there than you might be valuing, and that is true, you know? So the challenge here in this energy of the new moon Libra is October 2nd, by the way. It's not letting fear of not knowing what the hell's going on stop you from creating. And that's kind of again what's been going on. It's like, yeah, I know you don't know what's going on, do your purpose anyways. Yeah, I know you don't know what's going on, know what you want anyways, right? um and yeah, and so that you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. So if you're not feeling like you have enough information to go on, the challenge here is to trust that you'll know it when you know need to, right? That you move forward and what your desire and your inspiration is, which again is so much of what we're going to hear about from Big Magic. And that letting that be the essence of the timing, and letting go of what's just done and just being okay with that too is the full moon energy. So the optimal use of the new moon is exploring what you need to master. So if you don't know anything, that doesn't mean you stop. It means that you find where creativity starts, which is with inspiration. Again, it's like just perfect, because that's what the book about is again. And like trusting that inspiration, like if it's coming, that you grab a hold of it. And again, we're going to talk about with the book, and to go directly to source. As well, like trusting that direct connection again of inspiration direct from source. And but exploration means you take that inspiration and you either create from that, or if you feel like you want to know more, going and exploring about that. So like the unbalance of this energy is like the pressure to like know and like to get it perfect and get it right. Sound familiar, Susie?
Mm-hmm.
Creating paralysis of feeling inadequate. Again, that was our last month shadow, right? So it's like we've already had a little lesson around like taking the inadequacy and like turning it into, oh, that's actually this month, sorry. Turning inadequacy into resources, and that's actually the Gene Keys expression of it. Um, and the fear of trying something new beyond what you know. And so this is again so the heart of the experience of creativity to me as well. And in that, that's exactly what has to happen when we're learning to use our voice, that we don't get to know what the outcome is. We just have to jump. I say that literally in lessons. I'll say, jump off the cliff, just go, right? And it does feel that way because in order to have a true experience of what is possible, we must be willing to give up, right? Because otherwise, how does the universe catch us and how does the magic happen? And that's the same thing in voice. Like the body won't catch you, the body can't support you if you're not letting go. And so it's that huge, huge lesson, right? So I like did a composite of of her I forget what she calls it. I think affirmations statements. But it's longer than this. But I did a composite of Karen Curry Parker's, which is, I take great leaps of faith while connected to source, knowing I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it. Um, so yeah, so I think that is the act of art, and it is the act of artful living, and that's how I kind of, if I was to give a subtitle to being a creatrix, which is something that I like to talk about, I would be that, like artful living, like doing that with inspired joy and a sense of purpose, right? So yeah, so you think about that. And then the shadow
Mm.
is inadequacy, the gift is resourcefulness, and the city is wisdom.
Wisdom, and it sounds like, really the big lesson, or the big thing for us to lean into, is that faith part of it all, right? That
Yeah.
we are already perfectly prepared for it, even if we can't see with crystal clear vision the way that we imagine that we want to or need to. We don't need to, even though we want to. And sometimes it takes the magic out of it. If we received what we thought we were asking for, where would that magic have space to really take flight, right? So I love
If we
that.
thought it was going to be exactly what we thought it was going to be. Yeah. It's always, what I love about voice and what it's taught me is that it can always be better than you're thinking if you're willing to let go. And, and that, yeah, and it does, it's that trustful, it does take that.
That's beautiful.
Let's see what
It can be
happens.
better than you're thinking if you're willing to let go. And I was noting down some flower essences. I could be prepared before we get down to it, but I just love to see what comes up as you're digging into it, because I know you tap in and kind of flow with the energies. And so I feel like with the new moon, as we've already said, with eclipses come a little bit of chaos. So flower essences are great for helping you feel a little more grounded and kind of mindful in the emotions we are calling in, right? I think that has as much power as these lovely little remedies that you can use. And I'm always happy to answer more questions about those. If folks are new to Bach flower essences, Mimulus is the first one that came up. It's for fears. There are a couple different flower essences for fears, but Mimulus is beautiful because there's something that's bothering you, and that insecurity about what the future holds, that specific concern. It's not terror or fright, that would be rock rose, and it's not a free floating anxiety. So Mimulus helps you to release the fear of that thing that might be slowing you down or holding you back. And Serato Serato is a beautiful flower for trust. And I think it's one that I have been sharing in relation to these energies. And, given what we've already had to say about it, I think it's still right on point. Serato really fosters more trust, certainty in your own insights and intuition, faith in yourself, and faith in the universe that is going to have you in the right place at the right time for that magic to happen. Wild oat is a terrific flower essence for purpose and big magic, inspiring us to call more deeply on our creative parts. And certainly, this new moon in Libra, having that clarity, if you feel a little bit removed, or if you just feel like maybe you're being called to something that's bigger than you can take a hold of, I think wild oat is really going to kind of bolster us and keep us on course. Chestnut bud is great for mastery. You were talking about, really kind of assimilating the lessons, and we both just shared how we were in such a deep stage of learning. Talk about beginner's mindset. Both of us were kind of down to brass tacks in 2017. And so evolving and taking the lessons with us. Chestnut bud can help us from repeating the same mistakes, and it also helps us to master and continue to move forward. And then finally, again, this one I've probably called on every single time we've talked about flower essences, but Star of Bethlehem is beautiful for that connection to spirit, which I feel is so essential for that faith in our intuition and those intuitive hits, that spiritual guidance. And so Star of Bethlehem can help us to heal and release old wounds, and also to help us, I'm not even going to say restore the connection, because we're always connected to that unifying spirit, but sometimes things bring us that illusion of separation. And so Star of Bethlehem brings us back to it.
Beautiful. Yes, and I'm sure I misspelled something, but I put this in the comments for you guys to the
Thank
best of my
you.
ability. So hopefully y'all got those. Yeah, please contact Susie if you need help. Did I spell it right?
Yep.
Of what those, where to find them, or even just kind of maybe, because sometimes we have tendencies within ourselves that we might need to maybe add it to something else, and she's a master with that, of like helping where those things line up, right? She's got so much information that she gets to pull from to make that happen. So yeah, check out Susie to see, if you want to know more. And what Susie told me that I learned from her class is that there's so much more gentle than like an oil essence or something like this. And they are like 1,000 times. You're going to always have to add like a essential oil to a carrier, right? If you are at all I mean, even if you're not, you kind of need to, because some of them can literally burn your skin. So so yeah, so like, I think of them as medicine. So if you want something more gentle, and it's miraculous really how it just like kind of in the background starts going to work. So I love those so much. So yeah, so for the full moon, we have an Aries this month is the gate of conclusion in Karen Curry Parker's work. So that's 42. And the gene key 42 is the shadow of expectation. And it's the gift of detachment and the city of celebration. I know. I get excited. This is actually my radiance key for those in the know. It's it's how I maintain healthy energy, vibration, and how it radiates with natural vibrance, right? For me, this is that energy, right? So what I love again is the conciseness of Karen Curry Parker, and how she brings us like right to how do we work with this, right? So the hard part about this energy is a challenging place that it starts from is that we have to declare unfinished business. Now, for those of us who are like slight perfectionists and kind of want to to get everything done, I think that's something that's pretty common in my studio. We want to get everything done, and we will make lists and we will work until it's done. And this is actually saying, actually, let's let go of a few things so that you can do the rest of it, from, again, this quantum human design approach, and learning to choose completion and trust that the ending is exactly what is needed. And again, that's what I love to work with in voice, is that we are learning that in a physical expression, and we're learning that with the easier we allow it to be by letting go faster, that it again just becomes everything that we hope for. So the more we are willing to let go of, the more space we have for the beauty that we're trying to make happen with getting all that list done, right? So the optimal, I went ahead and just pulled a quote from from Karen on this one. The optimal expression is the ability to respond to being inserted into opportunities, experiences, and events that you have the wisdom to facilitate and complete. Okay. And to know exactly what needs to be completed to create the space for something new. So this is like, again, those circumstances are like, that wasn't part of the plan. Why? Right? And then you're like, that's not the perfection in which I ordered. Then it's those situations where you say, okay, what do I let go of to allow the new thing to take place? Again, freaking amazing story on Big Magic that correlates to this idea of like letting somebody else's frame of time or the space in which you're bringing what you have to the table, let it become something new, and even something you haven't even experienced in yourself before, right? And so the unbalance is that we allow ourselves to be paralyzed in overwhelm and procrastination by the pressure to finish everything, right? And I'm saying that a little differently than Karen probably would, but that's how I feel it. So that's how I'm saying it. Um, so a wonderful contemplation that I pulled from her amazing book is, do I own and value my natural gift of knowing how to bring things to completion? So there's a way that all of us do this, and all of us do it a little differently. I was just having a conversation. We were talking about how ritual can help somebody bring something to conclusion. It can be as simple as a cup of tea, or it can be as complex as, starting a fire and burning something that you've written, right? So that is the beauty of like making the choice and allowing it to just be what it is. Now, in Gene Key's expression, the shadow of expectation actually plays out for me in a way that is, it just becomes extremely disappointing when things aren't the perfect thing I ordered. And early in my life, so painful that I would just avoid doing anything. The energy backs up, and it becomes this constant anxiety and overwhelm just from like breathing, because you think it's always the thing that hurt me, but it's actually just not letting go of the thing that hurt you. And Cancer, Sun, and Moon here, like, why would I let go of something unless life beat it out of me? So detachment. It's just like, and so had to learn to detach, like be with something that I truly want, and also like not let it have to mean that everything's right or everything's wrong. So that just enough of that, that detachment is the separation that allows things to continue to be easy for me, of like, what am I supposed to do, what I have to do, and what I get done, and what actually is happening. And then the city of celebration is just like celebrating with the outcome, regardless of what it looks like. Again, which is like the big takeaway for me from Big Magic, is just celebrating that we are being inspired and we're living in this beautiful experience, and like letting that be the point. So yeah, that's how I got that one out.
Mm, thank you. I love how you decode these because even though we have the opportunity to talk about them a couple of different times, that I just get more and more clear on it as you know, you bring different kind of perspectives or insights there to light. And I know we've talked about this too because I think 42 is also in my gene key map
Yeah, profile.
chart.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, profile. Um, and this one, as I'm thinking of the flower essences, there's some different directions. Sorry about the paper rustle. I'll bring this up so I stop looking down. Different directions, and I guess it really depends on where you are and how you feel about change and stepping into it and releasing that attachment. One that I didn't write down, but it kept coming back to me, so I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say vervain. Vervain is a great flower essence for when you feel really passionate, really clear. If you tend to hop on your soapbox or kind of proselytize about anything that you feel really passionate about, and sometimes having that clarity and clutching so tightly to an idea can prevent you from, well, hearing what other people have to say and perhaps seeing things that aren't out of alignment but just maybe adjacent. You might be missing out on something that could enhance or fulfill that larger picture. So vervain feels like an essence that wants to be talked about. So we'll bring him into the conversation. Pine is a great flower essence for releasing guilt, self-blame, and judgment. And I think that is something that we maybe have been chafing about as things evolve and change shape. And, you know, along the way, what we say we're going to do isn't what exactly we're doing, or deadlines might not align with reality and that sort of thing. And I think if we continue to be hard on ourselves, we're constricting the process. So pine is wonderful there as well. And clematis is a great flower essence to help you be more present. And I think that being here right now is going to help us release that attachment to what could have been, what should have been, so that we can make the most of this moment while we are in it. Because that feels like the lesson that might be one of the biggest takeaways is, you know, and that's what we always tell ourselves and try to make the most of mindfulness. You know, regrets over the past or worries about the future are only taking us out of this moment where we have the most power. So clematis can help you be a little more present to what you can be doing right here in the now. And then elm is a great one for releasing overwhelm. So again, with this, you know, energy that might be feeling chaotic or ideas that might not be lining up, and you might feel like the flow just isn't supporting you. Overwhelm can help you release the attachment to that kind of energy and help you ease into it and accept where you are and how things are going and see the opportunities that are still here in front of us, even if they look a little bit different.
Oh yeah, I like that. I wish I had written that down. Yeah, so so again, up to the best of my ability, I put those in the comment section if you want to grab them, and little reminders that I was able to pick up in my fast typing skill.
Very adept, very adept.
I don't know if I spelled that one right. That is, I don't know. I went with my scientific approach
I
of
like it.
Latin.
I like it. It's actually spelled Clematis. I'm not sure how to edit the
Oh,
comment, but that's all right. Go
I
with the
know.
phonetics, and the Bach will guide you. Just like elm. It's just like it sounds. Releasing overwhelm with elm. Thank you, Monifa, for frantically catching all my ideas as I spouted them all off there.
Yes, yes. Yay! So yeah, so that's our good yummy stuff. That's where you want to pull and just be like, okay, this is what I'm working with. And like whenever we get into the shadows of the energy, it just is the reminder that the other side is available. That like magical piece of like the what it looks like when we are bringing exactly what we need to the moment, and then letting source provide the rest, right? And then also that wonderful experience of just letting go and then it's just, I don't know, there's just so much that can happen in that moment that we can't even imagine at that point. And that's where you get magic from, beyond our wildest imaginations, how I think of it in this present moment. So yay! So now let's talk about big magic because it's the book room. Elizabeth Gilbert
So
killing
good.
it in the
I
game.
know, right? And would love to have her over for a cup of coffee or a different beverage and some straight
Right?
talk.
Absolutely, that would be nice. She sounds like a not, she doesn't mess around type of person.
Exactly,
Like
exactly.
even that story with the recording and the in the bush drunk. You're just like, wow, you were like playing big, like playing big. She was just out there having her joy time, and like the universe is like, and here's a big surprise.
You'll have to read the book or listen to it to get the details on that one. That is such a great moment. I mean, she really is a superb storyteller.
Yeah.
And I think it's really such a treat to have somebody who she's so diverse in her writing style. She's written memoirs, obviously, everybody is at least familiar with, even if they haven't read Eat, Pray, Love. And her novels that she has researched and beautifully written. I really enjoyed The Signature of All Things, which she mentions in Big Magic. She talks a little bit about her process in that. And I think it's really nice to kind of demystify or be able to just kind of have a more open relationship with creativity, because I feel like we tend to come to creativity thinking we have it or we don't, right? We excel or we fall short. And I love how she encourages us to just have a totally different approach and a much more relatable, really kind of a back and forth with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is what is hard about being creative and being like living through inspiration and that kind of thing, is because people think that that happens like 24/7, and she mentions in the book, and it's like, yeah, no, like sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't, and like, but even just recognizing that, if you're really valuing the times that we're inspired, then we get the most out of them. And I love that part of the book too. So yeah, so let's start with the part one, and she's talking about courage in this section. And so yeah, so what did that tell you about like that sense of courage? And I mean, I think we know that, right? She's an artist, I'm an artist. We've done artistic things. We so we have definitely felt the taking our last to go and do it, even though we may be scared out of our minds.
Yes, right? Be scared
Yeah.
and do it anyway. I love just at the very beginning of the book, she's talking about another poet, and she kind of brings in voices of different authors and figures throughout history through the course of the book. But the quote that she shared by Jack Gilbert asking a student, so a fellow literary student in a college, that Elizabeth Gilbert was the guest, visiting professor following poet Jack Gilbert, no relation. And it's such a powerful question that I had to pull the whole thing out and make note to dig into it. And he asks this aspiring writer, do you have the courage? Do you have the courage to bring forth this work? The treasures that are hidden inside you are hoping you will say yes. Like, Oh, wow. If that is an inspiration to unleash some of the things that are rolling around your head and you keep telling yourself, I'm not ready yet, I don't have that skill yet, let me learn this one more thing so I can do right by this idea. And boy, we can get ourselves so constipated around creativity and creation, can't we, Monifa?
Oh my gosh, I am great at this. I sometimes I constipate every like last living inspiration out of it. Yeah, so so absolutely. And I love the pause that she has when she reads this, because at first, like as a creative mind, like it feels really confronting, right? It's like those first two questions are like, I don't know if I have the courage to bring forth the work, because we always have this sense of responsibility to the idea of perfection we think it requires, right? So yeah, so that's a little confronting, but then you get this wonderful like come hither of, the treasures inside of you are hoping you will say yes. And it's like, okay, well, maybe for the treasures, I'll say yes. But that's the artwork. Like, because I didn't really believe I could make the sounds that I wanted to make as a singer. It was really just a continuous yes to I'm willing to have the courage to find out. Um, and it took a long time. It took a really long time, you know. But yeah, like that's what you get if you're willing to say yes. You get treasures, right? Good stuff. And creative living. What about that one?
Yes, along the same lines, the definition, or in this case, I mean, I think she shares so many definitions through the course of the book. I don't know if I would have the discipline to say this is the one. But I love the image again. She's a master of imagery of the universe, very strange jewels deep within us, and then stands back to see if we can find them, right? Just that invitation, that idea that magic is such a part of it, right? She's not talking, she didn't name the
Mm,
book Big Creativity, she named it Magic. Like, how do these treasures, these jewels, find us in this big, crazy soup of humanity that's going on down here throughout time and everything else, right? How do they land with us, and how do we decide or commit to making something of them? So I love that, the magic in that.
yeah, that they are that if you dig, you will find them, right? I love that too. So we're going to move on to part two, enchantment, and it starts out with this amazing story. So I just want to see how you felt about it. But the idea gets sidetracked. How she had this idea of this book, very detailed, very well thought out, had already made all these notes and all these plans to do it when her life sidetracked her. And she was talking about that commitment and then what had to happen or what did happen and then what happened next. I like the story with Van Patchett. I wanted to get your reflections on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, I read this book a couple of years ago, and I think the kind of the takeaway from this story is what I have told the most people about it, and the reason I encourage so many people to read this book. But again, it's not simply the idea that an idea wants to be expressed, and it looks for that channel or that medium that is going to bring it to life. But the warning that I took away in the first reading, and that I keep impressing on other people, is if you don't seize that opportunity, if you don't nurture and honor that idea and give it that opportunity to grow, it's going to make its way to someone else. And,
Mm,
she brings the magic in the story, in the telling of how when she met Anne Patchett, perhaps is that magical moment, because so soon as their friendship grew, as their relationship grew, she discovered that this story that she had so clearly mapped location, relationships, arc of the story suddenly is about to be published by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is the story I tell the most about this book because it makes sense, and it makes so much sense when you start understanding entanglement and everything that happens with thought and with vibration. And this story just makes a beautiful knowing of this, which is that the ideas, that inspiration, that idea of having a muse, even is this, that it comes to you and through you, not necessarily by you. And I just love it. I love it so much. And so, because it ends a lot of like the jealousy and the over responsibility. If you know it's time to let go of something, to go ahead and let it go and trust that the universe is going to find another great mother for that outcome, right? So yeah, so I love that story so much. It is so good. And that's what I think Elizabeth Gilbert is brilliant at, is that she keeps taking you from like, yes, this is like, you know, if you're gonna do it, then take it seriously. And if you're not gonna do it, like live your life. Like it's all, she gives this wonderful balance to this understanding that is desperately needed, I think, in for creatives. It just is. And that story of Tiger's Tail, oh my God, oh my God. Best story ever of like taking advantage of those opportunities. I forgot the lady's name at this point, but there's this amazing writer that she appreciated and was talking with later in her life. And she was telling her how she could feel the inspiration coming as a wind through the field when she would literally be in the fields. And so she would try to beat it to the house so that she would be in place or ready to capture it. And that sometimes that she would get there just in time. Sometimes she would miss it, and sometimes she would get there just in time to catch it by the tail and bring it in and draw it back. And she would literally write it backwards, note word by word, a poem. She was a poet. And so yeah, so I was just like, that's the best story ever.
Right. I think we all dream of getting that magical download, that big, powerful inspiration hit, and the whole thing comes through us. And that's exactly how this poet sometimes worked. And Liz is also very honest and fair about saying, as much as sometimes she has been inspired in different methods, it's expressed in different ways, sometimes it doesn't want to come out and play with her. And I think that's really kind of comforting and reassuring to say there are those people who just open up the channel and the whole thing appears in full form and definition. And sometimes you have to kind of wrestle with it in order to capture it and not let it go. And sometimes you show up for work even when it wants to take the day or the week or the month off.
Yes, or the year. Yeah, I mean, we've all had that expression of like a dearth of inspiration, and you're just like waiting for it. But what I love that she always mentions, that she had, that not, she doesn't always mention, but she has stories of the commitment of time that she has put in over the course of years, and that she just keeps showing up to it even when she was getting rejection letters every time she sent something out, and it became a game for her. And that allowing it to be a game, and allowing and saying, well, I'm going to be here long enough to figure something out. And if I don't, oh, well, I still choose this. Right. And I think that's, I just love that. It's something I'm always aspiring to share as well. Like, I feel like it's something that I'm inspiring to live up to within myself, and then also to share with others. So, yeah. So what about the have a genius instead of being a genius? How did you feel about that
Yes.
section?
I love that invitation, right? Again, to not identify yourself with the power, the scope of your own creativity, your own genius. And she goes back to Greek, like old Greek writings and texts, where the genius was kind of an inhabitant or a creature in and of itself. It isn't you being a genius, you expressing your genius, your skill in whatever medium this is, but it is your partnership and collaboration with a genius that is somehow within you, a part of you. It's an aspect, but it isn't only you. And I think the word that she digs into in the book is eudaimonia, right? The good demon.
Mm, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't pick that up. Yeah, but it is. It's just kind of this idea again. Like I think of it as a muse, because that's what I've heard of the most frequently, and and that yeah, and that it can choose you, it can not choose you, it can work with you, it can decide to move on, it can work with you and somebody else. Like those configurations of the truth of like what ephemerality is, and that it is part of inspiration and creativity, and that we get to live the experience of that truth of what that is, right? That we don't just get to be like, oh, I did something wonderful, now I can name myself a genius like it was only me. Or take the full brunt of it when you thought you were inspired and nobody agrees, and then you're just like, no. It keeps your ego in check, and even though egos are important, that it cannot run the game, otherwise we will be defeated or artificially propped up by it. So yeah,
Yes.
toots.
Right? So many wonderful kind of different perspectives to invite you to go a little deeper and to be more open to possibility in part two and enchantment. And then part three, Elizabeth Gilbert grants us permission. Permission
Thank you, Elizabeth Gilbert.
has been granted. We are now fully accredited. Are you ready to go make something?
Yes, I love it. I just pulled that directly because I just like, we all need this. I think we do. I use here at least once. I think there's a lot of courageous souls who go and do it in spite of and be spiteful. But I definitely needed somebody to say yes. I don't know if I would have moved forward if I had zero people saying yes. And so it always baffles me, right? Like often I would just hide it so people couldn't say no, but that's not always the best way to go about it either. But I love the motive section, so that you, because she was basically having us explore like why we think we're writing something. Again, this is something my personality tends to do. Like we tend to make it about other people, and that way we feel like, well, I'm doing my best for others, so then it should be given at least that little cookie. Like I get a cookie because I'm doing this for others.
That's right.
And
My
then
demon says I get a cookie.
exactly. And she says this statement that like I think the first time I read, I was like, ugh, right? But she was like, your need to help others can be a weight or a burden to the audience, basically, that the people that you think should do something out of what you so, courageously and brilliantly given, right? And it's true. It's like you can't put it on them because it's nobody's job, right? And to make it important or to to even use it or to look at it or to any of it. So you just need to get over yourself in that regard. That's to me, not just other people.
Right. I think it really kind of maybe stung, dare I say, stung both of us. It's certainly, this is one of the big takeaways that I've had coming back to this book, because I'm in a very different place than I was before, maybe just a little bit further down this path. But now, listening to it all again and looking at what I've been doing and thinking I should be doing over the last couple of years, this one was really close to the mark. As our new friend Liz is saying, the world doesn't need one more self help book, just to very roughly paraphrase. That's not exactly what she said, but that's what I needed to hear as I was coming back to this book. And that's exactly it. You know, what is the motive? What is the reason that this feels like an important thing, something that I should come to? It's been, I'll just admit my idea that I'm afraid I have been ignoring and is about to run away from me. And so I've been kind of holding myself closer to it. And then hearing Liz talk about, what is this creation? What are you called to create and share with the world? And what is the motive behind it? And it's like, oh yeah. And I think, maybe you can also take from this too, like, if you have inspiration and you feel like it has to serve a purpose, is that diluting or muddying the potential of that inspiration, right? So releasing
Mm,
that I need to do this for this purpose or for these people, maybe that just lets it have that room and space to breathe and be what it truly is intended to be. Our little magical, brilliant ideas without
yeah.
coloring them.
Yeah, that being like letting inspiration be the motive and not making it need to have a purpose. I think that's that kind of final bullet that came through for me. So yeah, so that's been the piece that I walked away with, because it's kind of, because that's me all day. Like, I want there to be a point and I want something to get out of it. And I want people to have wonderful results. And I want that for everyone. And it's just not always the most conducive way to go about things, because I often tend to, like, again, overdo it. And and then instead of just letting the inspiration be the purpose, is where I was trying to go with that. Um, and I think that's something that it can be, but we're often taught that we need something, an outcome. We need that final thing to put on the shelf so that we can tell people how much it costs, right?
Right.
Um,
Which
so
goes to another topic that she digs into in part three, which I'm going to venture landed with you as deeply as it did with me. My liberal arts university Bachelor of Fine Art bearing self. As Liz digs into creatives going to school and what is this attachment that we have with education, with certification, with letters and validation and training, and what does that kind of incubator really provide us? And does it actually give you wings, or is it creating a burden that can actually sap that creative spark? That's a tough
yeah,
conversation.
it's a super tough conversation, because I was taught and I grew up valuing education at a very high level. And I thought anything that I would have to do, I'd have to go learn how to do it. I just assumed that was part of the process, and that I did. I have a master's in music performance. So that is something that you pay money for. And honestly, as a teacher, and as a teacher of voice, right, I know there are things that you just aren't going to learn on your own in that experience. And also very valid is that you can create your own experience, which is she brings up in the book. You can bring your own people together. You can find your own mentor and let them teach you. Some people do fine with just listening and modeling until they have their own inspiration. And so, but my inner teacher's like, and if they could just know a few things for sure. But that's just me and my way of thinking. And she does mention that, like, for things, if you want to work classically with something, then you might want to find out the histories and stuff. But again, she's like, maybe you can be creative about that too. Maybe you don't want to go in with a massive debt in order to be the creator that you want to be. Maybe there's another way to do it. And I think, again, that's just that beauty of the balance, right? It's just that beauty of balance. So, yeah, I think it's fabulous because now we have to go and now we have a little balance. She's like, and you need persistence. We have part 4. She's like, and it's not all rainbows and magic. You gotta eat some.
Our friend Liz, she's given it to us straight, and sometimes you have to make yourself a sandwich that does not want to taste good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Which flavor would you hate the least? I did I write that?
I did.
Or is
I
that
did
you?
the rough paraphrase.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah,
Right?
it's because it's true. Because I just told this story of like I started out pre-med biology, and I knew all my life I was going to be a pediatrician, and I got to the school and I hated my peers. I'm sorry, y'all. I did. I hated the people I was going to class with and the same track as me. And I was like, if this is going to be who I'm working with for the rest of my life, this will not do. Like, I'm not going to live like this. and, and then I went into music, of all things, folks, like music. I mean, and a lot of people say like the pre-med track is purposely meant to like keep you out of medical school and all this kind of stuff. And it's hard and like dealing, but I didn't want to deal with the hardship of these people. Like I'm not dealing with these people. And so I went into music and I that's the decision I made, was that I'll deal with the hardship of making my love and my passion my vocation. I'll deal with the hardship of even getting to the place where I would even believe in myself in this vocation. I'll deal with the hardship of all the criticism and all the no's and all the possibilities of never making it. I'll deal with all that, but I won't deal with you people. So I'm just saying, maybe we should self-examine ourselves.
It's
I'll
funny
give you
where we
both.
draw a line in the stand, right? Where we draw a line. I will not go there.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this particular little takeaway, Liz is talking with about a friend of hers who I believe is a writer also, another person who's living a creative life, and they say basically, which flavor of shit sandwich are you going to mind the least? Sorry, I said it. I said it.
Yeah.
Um, because there's always going to be the struggle. There's always going to be finding the time to make your art, whatever channel that is, in the midst of living life, right? It isn't always sunshine and rainbows and creative inspiration. Sometimes we grind through a day job and then we steal hours to do the things that light us up, to give us that spark back and that passion. So, knowing that it's not going to be an easy path, what sacrifices are you willing to commit to making?
Yeah. 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 And that's what it comes down to. It's like, which ones are you willing to do? Like, which ones are you willing to live with? And obviously, now that I've come to a better realization of who I am, like obviously the community mattered just as much as the how much would I help people. And because the community that I was with at the time was not interested as much as I thought they would be or should be, maybe I was a little judgmental. Uh, um, you know, I was just like, yeah, I'm not living this community. That's not what I'm here for. And then, like, her next amazing tip is to have an
Mm.
affair. I love this so much because it says you can be committed without you can be passionate, right? You can show up for something and you can be committed without making it like a 2 hour a day gig, right? Um, it can be lighter than that. It can be 15 minutes here and there. We can steal time, and also to like treat our inspiration or creative work as something that you get excited about, something that you would like, you get a little excited. Ooh, I'm creeping off to play with my writing for a little bit, and like even she talks about even like dressing for the work, you know? How did that part hit you?
I really love that. I think
Yeah.
it's just a great new perspective and invitation. You know, whatever it takes to change your energy, to break out of, you know, if you're feeling in a rut, if you're feeling stuck, if you're being hard on yourself, or your little good demon because your intuition, your inspiration isn't coming out to play. Um, and it really is a powerful reminder, right? You know, you can do a lot of making out in 15 minutes if you have an affair with your creativity and you look forward to these interludes. There's so much, and she comes back to this throughout the book too, in your attitude and your approach. And if you struggle, if you're resentful, if you're skeptical, if you're measuring and judging, you know, why would your creativity want to come back and play with you some more? But if you meet your creativity as like the thing you've been thinking about all day while you've been doing other things and you just can't wait to get back together, right? That energy is going to keep it invited to come back and flowing through you, which I think is really juicy. I
Yeah,
love that.
it
Thanks,
is.
Liz.
It's super juicy. I'm like, yes, there's no better way to describe that. And I think I've always, you know, I've always loved her. Like I read Eat, Pray, Love, and I've always loved the way that she brought that to life. And and also, I don't think I noticed how much she is like a short storyteller until I read this book because she just makes these juicy moments out of these realizations. And it did, like, it really brought home, because, you know, in the process of writing a book as well. And so it really brought home this feeling of like, we don't have to make everything that serious, right? And then she talks about it in the book as that perfectionism piece. And it's like the section is fear in high heels. And I'm just like, wow. But like it's about like letting the idea of that it should be, or you'd rather die than put something out that's not good, right? This idea that it can only be useful or can only be important work if it's something that is well received, and all these other ideas of what successful means to people. And she has this quote here that says, "It starts by being a deeply disciplined half-ass." And I just love the balance she brings to this idea of like, yes, we must work at it. And then, yes, sometimes it's crap. And yes, you're going to feel like you're just half-assing it probably the majority of the time. I'm guessing higher than 50%. And that's exactly how I felt like in the process of writing regularly at this point. I'm just like, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. Oh, there's a good sentence. And I'm like, letting it be enough for now has been the
Mm-hmm.
hardest part of the journey. And then the done is better than good, which is what I have to
Exactly.
say.
If we listen to that voice of perfection, we wouldn't have anything to read or to see in galleries or to celebrate with each other, right? And she goes back to, and I love how she relates the influence that her parents have had on her as she's grown. Done is better than good, which is great. Then done is, you know, good is better than perfect. I mean, it's
Right.
even deeper permission. So take it because Liz gave it to us. Um, do the thing, right? If we sit
Yeah.
around and we wait until it springs perfectly formed from our fingertips, the world will never know because we will continue being in our own way. And so I think that's such a powerful reminder and urging from someone who has, like Manifa said, put in so many hours, so many days, over so many years, just deeply committed. She talks in the book about having taken vows to her writing, and she still believes them today as much as she did, you know, when I think she was a college student, you know, way back at that point. Like it's like, yeah, if she can keep on showing up for it in big ways, we can find little ways if that's where we have to start, but the showing up is what matters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of my thing is that, yeah, that presence is better than perfection, right? Like just showing up. Like that's the biggest requirement because if you don't show up and nobody sees it, then did it happen? Did the tree fall in the woods? Um, Part five is trust, which I think is the biggest component in letting people see it and showing up and in our creativity. And I started that one with the teaching of pain. And and isn't life that kind of weird mix of the pain that requires the lesson, right? Or the lesson that requires the pain or whatever. Um, and like what comes out of that. I get she talks about all our angsty artists out here, right? We're like, there are some people that, and I mean, it's not funny. Like some people are literally saying, "Oh, I'll just go ahead and be a drunk for the rest of my life," or "I'll go ahead and like having crap relationships for the rest of my life," because it's a source of my inspiration to be a great artist. And she's making an argument here that says, "Yeah, we don't need you to go around being a jerk." So that you can have bad relationships or continually contributing to the lack of health of your body in order for us to get this work. And makes the case that yeah, that she actually has experienced more creativity when she's supporting the body, the mind, the beingness that is making this thing happen. And the show upness of that, right?
The show up in this.
The show upness. Because there's, I think it's one thing to do it. I think it's another thing to tell people you did it. And I think some art is just for ourselves, and I'd like to call that restorative work. And some
Hmm.
is meant to be seen. And I don't care what iteration, how elementary we think it is. Like I've heard that as like an actual description, and I'm just like, elementary? Like, is that a word for art? Is it? I don't know. I don't think so. But whatever thoughts we make it wrong with, um, that it's all vital, and it's amazing because when you do show it, you'll be surprised who needs to see it, um, and what it does for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I think Elizabeth Gilbert would say, "Let it be a surprise." Don't plan on it. Just let it be a surprise. It'll be happy.
So next week we are going to be back at the same time, but we have our little private book club meeting. So information about that should be in the comments. I'll flash this back up on the screen again too. We get together at the same time, 1 p.m. Pacific. We have a little Zoom conversation with everybody who shows up with us, and we're going to dive more deeply into all the things we didn't have time to touch on today and talk more about how creativity shows up for you, what kind of relationship you want to cultivate with it. It's going to be more
Yeah.
juicy talk.
I love this one because I'm sure like all our creatives have their own stories and what's going on with them regarding this. And there's so much of it addressed in this book. And it'll be so yummy to like just walk it out. Is how just get walk it out. It's like, oh yeah, you've been carrying that load way too long. Let Miss Gilbert give you permission. So I hope to see you there. It'll be so fun to
Yes.
to connect with everybody.
Thank you, Farjana, for commenting and following along with us today while we were live. Thank you for joining us. Other folks, as you catch the replay, we hope you'll leave your comments, your questions, and take a look online. Check out our Buy Me a Coffee, Verve and Vision page, and we hope we will get together with some of you next week. And next month, we've just decided, everybody get ready, we are going to read The One Thing by Gary Keller. So get your book off the shelf or get it in your shopping basket, and you can start planning ahead. But we look forward to seeing everybody next Thursday.
See you next time.
Take care, everybody.